fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The truth about smart fishing spots and why this one group of fishermen is absolutely scared to death of it. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again here with the Salt Strong Podcast. This is going to be hopefully a pretty short and sweet podcast about smart fishing spots. I'm going to talk about what it is and just as importantly, what it is not and what it won't do. It's not going to solve the world's problems, but it does help you become a better angler and give you some shortcuts. I'm also talking about why it's agitated some certain people, including some fishing guides, and really just talk about the history of just using technology and the history of how us as anglers have become better and have maximized our time. And this isn't anything technically new, although it is. So we'll talk about that. And then, also talk about guides in particular, because it seems to be they're the ones who have really been the loudest in a negative way about smart fishing spots. And actually, I'll just be clear. I would say it's 95% of all the negativity that we've seen in our ads and in our videos has always been from fishing guides. And I even had some face-to-face and heart-to-heart talks with some fishing guides I'm close with and kind of got to hear their opinion, which I think was great. It was good for us to hear that and to always just be recognized that, hey, there's a lot of different types of anglers out there. And there are people who make a living on it. And just like we make a living here at Salt Strong, no one likes when that feels threatened. So I do get that. So let's talk about what smart fishing spots, and I'm going to throw in smart fishing tides is. 30,000 foot view, smart fishing tides was created first, and that is a pretty robust tide software, and it's for our insider members only. That obviously it shows the tides, and you can kind of get that in a lot of different places, but it does something that's pretty unique. It's got a strike score out to 14 days, and it's anywhere from 1 being the worst, like don't go fishing that day, and 10 being the highest. If you got anything over a 9, essentially, it actually says to call in sick to work and go fishing. That means really everything, all the different, there's 10 or so different variables that we have in there. They all line up, and it means, hey, this is going to be a pretty hot bite in general. And so it goes out to 14 days, and it basically tells you, hey, Tuesday is going to be a 6.7, and Thursday is going to be an 8.2, and, Friday is going to go back down to a 6, and then Saturday is going to be a 9. It's like, if you knew that in advance, and we're getting new data in like every 15 minutes, just so you know. So I'm going to answer questions I hear all the time is, hey, earlier it was showing me that Thursday was going to be an 8.6, and now it's an 8.9, or it's an 8 on the dot. What happened? Well, we're getting new data in literally every 15 minutes, and this is changing. And just like any kind of forecast, because all this is a forecasting tool, the closer you get to the actual date, the more accurate it is. So we've got it up to 14 days just based on a strike score. So that's number one. And then you have the tides. If you're in there, you know what I'm talking about. And then below that, so there's basically 3 sections to the smart fishing tides. Below that, then you have it broken out by day, by hour, literally showing the best bites per hour. So for instance, in just general, you're going to see in the just middle of summer, in general, not always, but a lot of the tide stations and and this is broken out by tide station, by the way. So you pick your tide station. We have every tide station there is. And then it breaks all this stuff down that I'm explaining to you. And in general, in the summertime, for instance, you're going to see some peaks in the twilight hours, right? It makes sense. It's cooler. The fish are more, they're certainly more aggressive. They're feeding harder. Now, there's also some times when you got just some epic, tide cycles, and that'll peak it up even in the middle of the day sometimes. So those aren't the only 2 variables. There's quite a few different variables that we're using, but just so you can kind of get an idea of what it is. And obviously it changes every week, it changes every month, changes every year. And it's super, super helpful. And here's what it is. It's a tool, right? It just because you have it doesn't mean you're automatically just going to catch a billion fish every single time, that you're going to ruin fishing for everyone. And that's really kind of one of the main points I'm trying to make with this podcast. So it is a tool. It is helpful. And we all use different tools, right? Some of us have bigger engines. That's a tool to get us from point A to point B faster. A lot of us have certain technologies like fish finders and sonar and all the the crazy amounts of new technology that are coming out, so you can see what's on the bottom, right? Those are all tools. Just because you have it doesn't mean you're always going to catch a billion fish, but we're always, as anglers, right, and really just people in general, we're always looking for an edge to get things done faster and smarter and more efficiently, and to maximize their time. So that's Smart Fishing Tides. Smart Fishing Spots came after Smart Fishing Tides, and that was really focused on finding the best spots. So the tides was time, right? The best time to go fishing, and tide and time of day. Smart Fishing Spots was all about actually like finding spots based on trends. And there has been I've seen so much misinformation on here, which is another reason I'm doing this. When people start just, oh yeah, it's artificial intelligence and it's scary and it's freaky and they've got Chat GPT or whatever doing it. No, every single spot on there, and we're talking tens and thousands of different spots that do move based on the similar variables. And we're working on really kind of a new interface where it'll have the tides, the Smart Fishing Tides, overlaying the Smart Fishing Spots. So, for instance, let's just say, hey, I know today's only Tuesday, I'm pre-trip planning, but I'm not going to fish till Saturday. You can swipe the little cursor over to Saturday. It'll show you all the tides, the best times, etc. And then it'll actually start showing you some spots to fish for that area around that tide station based on all of the data that we are bringing in. Now, the artificial intelligence part, there is artificial intelligence, if you want to call it that. It's really just automation, to be honest with you, but it is somewhat artificial intelligence because we're having to program these computers to take all this data in and to predict why these certain spots will be better at certain times. And it does change all the time. And I will say that it's not perfect, right? And I want you to hear that from me, because I feel like so many people, and that's part of the agitation is, oh my gosh, if these things are perfect and you're sending them to the exact right spot at the same time, right time, and they're just going to annihilate all the fish and there won't be anyone for anyone left. No, it's a tool, guys. I mean, the same thing, just because you have a fish finder doesn't mean that you're always just going to catch every fish down there. This tool, Smart Fishing Spots and Smart Fishing Tides combined, for intra-saltwater anglers, I don't think there's ever been anything like it. I do think it is revolutionary. I do think it's game-changing. But at the end of the day, it's still a tool, right? And it doesn't guarantee you're going to catch fish. And in fact, I've been with people where we put them in the right spot at the right tide, and I'm catching fish and they're not, right? Because maybe they don't have the right rig, or they don't have the right retrieve, or they don't even know how to cast. And there's so many different variables and factors, as you know, as an angler, if you're hearing this, that go into fishing. I mean, you could put the worst angler at the best spot and they might not catch a single thing. These are all shortcuts. These tools, right? Any type of tool, even going back to the old school spot maps, those were just tools, right? They're not guaranteed to catch you a fish. They're a shortcut. It gives you context and gives you maybe an idea, especially if you're in a new spot or if you haven't fished in a while, is, hey, here's the spots I should try out. In any given area, we're never just saying, hey, this is the spot. We're always giving a handful of spots, because let's face it, fish move. They have tails and no fences. They're moving constantly. But we do know in general, just based on trends in these areas that we've personally fished, that we are able to predict somewhat accurately what types of areas they are going to be in at specific times of day, etc. So this is a shortcut using data and technology. And for some people, it seems to bother them. And that's okay, right? Not everyone has to have a fish finder. And let's talk about fish finders. If you know anything about the history of fish finders, I mean, these things came out, way back in the 40s and 50s in Japan, were the first very rudimentary ones. But at least it gave you kind of you could almost see a pulse. Think of like something you'd see in an old hospital of, oh, there's something down there. You don't know what it is. You don't know the size of it. You don't even know how far away it is. But it was basically just giving out pulses of where things were underneath you. And obviously today's technology it's mind blowing. You can actually see the fish hitting a lure in some of these cases. But back in the history of these fish finders, which is very similar to what we've built, right? We're using data and technology to help increase our chances, to give us shortcuts. And when fish finders first came out, like especially in the 80s, when this is the time when Bass, BASS, and Bassmaster Classics. I mean, this is like a height for them. Like this is when Bass was, 80s and 90s, the biggest it's really ever been. In the very, very beginning, this would have been late 70s, early 80s, and these fish finders came out. I mean, there were, and I'm not talking about bass, I don't know about them specifically, but there's a lot of tournament directors for bass fishing in particular that wanted to ban the use of fish finders, right? This is unfair. This is going to ruin fishing. And I've seen some old quotes and seen some old articles about the introduction of fish finders, right? Which is technology that literally it's saying like, this is going to ruin fishing forever. The whole thing, the whole sport's going to be gone in a couple of years. Like, it's just going to annihilate all the fish. And it didn't, right? And then that was back in the 70s. I mean, here we are, 50 plus years later, and now everyone has a fish finder. Not everyone, because there are some people that still just don't want anything to do with technology. But for the most part, all of us, if we're an angler and we're skilled at all, we have had some shortcuts, whether that be from a mentor, from a guide, from someone showing us areas, or using satellite maps as another form of technology. Just because it's free doesn't mean it's not a form of technology and a shortcut. We've all used different forms of technology to help us find fish. We've all used different tools, and that's all this is, right? I mean, that's literally all this is. I will say, just like any tool, no one should rely solely on just smart fishing spots and smart fishing tides. Meaning you don't just look at that and say, oh, cool, I got my 3 to 5 spots. I know the tides. I'm just going to put my head down and just rush to that spot, not look at anything else. No, you should always be looking around, right? That's how we learn. That's how we even find our own new spots, because that's very rewarding as well, right? Once again, use this tool to help you, but also, I mean, part of at least the fun for me is the adventure of going to new areas and trying new spots and trying to find new spots based on what I'm seeing out there. And what I mean by that is obviously, looking for birds, looking for bait, looking for areas that maybe have even changed over the years, from whether it be hurricanes or whatever. Looking at, areas that you heard have new structure. Maybe there is new structure, new bridges gone in, or whatever it might be. I mean, that's a big part of the fun. And learning trends is really where the magic happens. Once you can start dialing in some trends, and yes, you do need to be on the water a little bit more to do that. You can't just fish once or twice a year and just assume you're going to know all the trends. But once you start using tools like smart fishing spots and smart fishing tides, it does help you. It gives you some shortcuts. And then over time, you start dialing in your own little trends where you don't have to rely on the tools as much. Just like some of the best fishing guides, right? They're not having to rely on a fish finder every single time. There's times that they do, depending on, the scenario and the depth, et cetera, but they're not having to rely on some of the same tools that they used to. I mean, heck, I've heard from a lot of guides who said, man, their early years, I mean, they were using the old school spot maps just to try to find new areas and just get it. Once again, get a little bit of a head start, if you will, on finding spots. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've all done it. And to me, it's just part of fishing. Now, I mentioned, some of the people who have had kind of their waders in a wad, if you will, about smart fishing spots and all this. Number one, I'm guessing a lot of them don't understand it, and it's a knee-jerk reaction. But number two, it mostly has been all fishing guides. And I just want to say, if you're a fishing guide listening, man, we support you. And there are many fishing guides that we do support and have literally changed their lives. I'd be careful what you post, online or in any form of fashion, because that stuff's out there. And end of the day, your clients are the same as ours. We represent the recreational angler. We have 37,000 members as I'm recording that. That's a lot of people. And these are people who are spending money on not just tackle and a fishing club, but on charters. And when they even see fishing guides out there bashing recreational anglers, because a lot of times I've seen fishing guides, they'll bash smart fishing spots, Salt Strong, and then the Googans are the people that use this stuff. And like these are your people, guys. And if you were smart and you had more of, I would say, an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset, you'd find ways to team up with the people like Salt Strong that have access to all these recreational anglers and are recreational anglers ourselves. And I mean, have literally changed some fishing guides' life who have seen the opportunity and said, hey, I don't mind being helpful. I look at this as the rising tide lifts all boats. and have teamed up with us in a multitude of different ways. And we're referring business out to fishing guides all day long, literally all the time. I mean, we have 3 in particular guides that cannot take any more business. I mean, it's literally changed their lives where they don't have to market anymore. And we have thrown them that much because they've been so helpful inside of our community. And we have a massive chunk. I don't know if it's thousands, but it's certainly close to 1,000, fishing guides, people who have a captain's license who are members. So there are a lot of fishing guides. And of course, they never speak up on social media because they don't want to, obviously, if someone else is bashing it as a guide. But you'd be shocked that if you're a fishing guide listening to this, some of your friends you probably know that I'll never name, but are inside of our community and are using both our tackle discounts and even tools like Smart Fishing Spots, which also works really, really well for nearshore fishing and helping you find hidden little ledges and places to catch grouper and snapper, etc. So just want to share all that. Like I said, we have everyone's back. We truly do have an abundance mindset where, man, this is a natural resource that we all get to use. And meaning the waterways and these fish, we want to protect it as much as we can. Same point, we want people fishing. I did a whole podcast on that in the past that, it's easy to say, oh, I wish there weren't as many people fishing. But at the same point, it's all of the fishermen who help pay for all of the great things we have. And they're the ones who are protecting it at the end of the day. If we don't have enough anglers who are actual voters and spending money in the tackle and the marine industry, a lot of the stuff that we have, from boat ramps to access to even just the ability to fish, goes away. I mean, end of the day, it's sad but true. It's a money and people business in terms of getting anything done up there in DC or even at the state or local level. And it all comes down, if they see 60 million people fishing and it's XYZ billion industry, that gets the attention of politicians. It gets the attention of really everyone. It pays for lobbyists. It pays for a lot of the stuff that helps protect our ability to go fishing. So before you bash a recreational angler or try to bash us or anyone, always think through is, all right, what are some ways we could team up instead of just lashing out and saying, oh, this is horrible or this stinks. And many times it's just, you don't know enough. I mean, you haven't even gotten into, hey, like I looked at all the people like on this one post that were just absolutely bashing us, saying we're the worst things ever. And they're all fishing guides, by the way. And they're all making fun of recreational anglers, whether they think that or not. And that's how it comes off. And every single one of them are fishing guides. Not a single one of them has ever met us. Not a single one of them's ever been a member. And so it's just this knee-jerk, reaction. And the irony is, every time a fishing guide has gone public on anything from YouTube to podcast to Facebook to Instagram and sort of bashing what we're doing, it floods us with new people. So the irony is, like, we should send thank you cards because every time they're like, oh yeah, man, they're just cheating. They're giving shortcuts and showing spots and spot burning. Guess what that does? That attracts every single consumer over to us. So, I mean, because most of it's not even remotely close to being true or accurate. But it's the way it's presented is, man, these guys, Salt Strong is a threat, what they're teaching, and they're going to hurt our business and our industry, and it's the worst thing for fishing. And the irony is, yeah, it detracts some fishing guides, but for the most part, fishing guides do their own thing. But the consumers, the recreational anglers that want the shortcuts, that want the ability to have tools and have access to tools like Smart Fishing Spots and Smart Fishing Tides, that gets them really, really, really excited. So it's just kind of an open letter, if you will, to anyone who's struggled to understand Smart Fishing Spots, Smart Fishing Tides, what we do and why we do it. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you instead of trying to bash people or bash companies or even tools and software like Smart Fishing Spots on social media. And reach out to us. Maybe invest. Get to see it. Maybe there's a way you could be using it and even using it for your clients. You might be surprised. And as I said, the same with the way that these fish finders and all the technology we've ever had, it always in the beginning, it causes an uproar. I mean, once again, there were tournament directors and tournaments trying to ban fish finders, saying this is going to, there's people out there who wanted to never have that out there. It's going to ruin fishing forever. And now, the vast majority of boats and even kayaks now have little handheld fish finders, et cetera. So It did not ruin fishing. It has made it easier and more enjoyable, but it hasn't made it easy. Nothing ever does, right? And I guess, nothing makes it just purely easy where it's just like shooting fish out of a barrel. So all that being said, I hope this answers some questions that I know some people have. Hopefully it clarifies a few things that I've seen out there that are just crazy inaccurate in terms of what Smart Fishing Spots and what Smart Fishing Tides is. And if you're not a member yet, come join us. Like I said, we have 37,000 active members as I'm recording this today. And now we're getting, 60 to 100 people a day joining, which is just wild. I remember like that would be, a good month when we first, started this, Luke and I 8 years ago. And now, many days, 100 new members in a single day. So it's just growing like crazy. And it's because we're doing so much. It's the Smart Fishing Spots and Smart Fishing Tides. That's the free stuff we give out. Everything else from all the mastery courses and the tackle discounts and the community now are doing like local chapters where we actually have, speakers, many of them, some of the good, abundant minded fishing guides and local experts. There is so much going on with this club, and for just what it is at 27 cents a day, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a whole lot less expensive than a cup of coffee per day. So if you're serious about inshore saltwater fishing in particular, come join us. If you love saving time and money, if you want some shortcuts and you want to take advantage of some really cool data and technology, we have all these different layers from one button, boom, you find all the oyster bars in your area and seagrass. And once again, that doesn't just mean you're going to automatically catch fish, but doggone, it sure does help you find them quicker. And it sure does cut out a lot of that learning curve. And once again, if you have a problem with that, then don't do it. But to me, I want every shortcut possible. I have no problem admitting that. And I think most people are the same way. If you value your time, why wouldn't you want a shortcut? I think it is the most dumbest asinine thing ever to try to do everything the hard way. I want every shortcut I have for everything I do. If it's going to enable me to get that thing done quicker and to become better at it, become skilled at it, and then to share that same skill with others, which is how any kind of sport, any type of hobby, any kind of thing in life, that's how it works, right? You get people who try to get to the top and become an expert as quick as they possibly can. Whether that takes a day or if it takes 10 years, it's irrelevant. And then you get to pass that same knowledge and that same love and that same enjoyment down to others. And that's how our entire sport grows. That's how our club has grown. From having 1,000 members to 37,000 members in a short amount of time, and we'll be well over 50,000. The rate we're growing by the end of this year. That's a lot of recreational angles that we represent and that we're helping in serving. And I know by then, even just by the end of the year, which will be here before you know it, we're going to have so many new things on top of this, because everything I'm talking about didn't even exist a year ago. So before that, we didn't even have Smart Fishing Spots. Smart Fishing Tides was new, but we didn't even have Smart Fishing Spots a year ago. So it's wild how much has evolved and changed, just in 1 year. And I know once we have 50,000 members, some point here in 2023, who knows what new benefits and new perks and shortcuts we'll have for our members. We're constantly coming up with new stuff and just constantly listening. So we appreciate you guys. Love you guys so much. And if we can help you or serve you in any way, let us know. You know how to reach us there at saltstrong.com. And if you haven't joined, join us today before we end up raising the prices. We talked about doing it late last year and it just didn't feel right. But now that we have all of this and the fact we're growing so fast, we are going to raise prices. However, I want to be clear. Once you're in, that's one of our promises. It's how our parents raised us. Once you're in, you're grandfathered into that price as long as you're an active member. So if you got in today, and you were only paying the 27 cents per day, that is going to be your rate next year, the year after, the year after, the year after. As long as you're an active member, you're locked into that rate. Anyone new going past the point once we raise it, they will have to pay the higher price. So we will be doing that here some point this year. Is what we talked about in our leadership meeting. So, guys, thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the